General Medicaid warning. The views expressed in 5-ish minute lore, the lore delivered in rants, are sanctioned by their scholar Progenium, as excess rages. Prolonged exposure can result in loss of IQ, high blood pressure, random outbursts, and blunt force trauma to the skull, resulting in unconsciousness. Please consult your local physician for more information.
Imagine, if you will, you're a Drakari. Stop it. You're a happy, soul-sucking little knife ear who just loves to kick back in his razor-wing jet fighter to terrorize the locals. After you get done, you'd love to just kick back in Kamara and kick puppies and punch grandmas. Know why? Because you're an edgy little prick. You're particularly fond of dropping in on Imperial worlds and shooting the silly Monkai fighters out of the sky. You know, the ones that dare to compete with the majesty of your glory and all that other kind of garbage that you've been feeding yourself since the beginning of time, since you're a In fact, you've gotten such a reputation of just showing up and beating the brakes out of everybody that the Monkai have given you this nice little nickname, Sky Knife. Look at you go, you edgy BDSM-loving piece of filth. You work for a particular brand of pirates who have gotten some great targets. And because you're an absolute beast, a total thundercat, a complete unit, they give you the choicest cut of slaves. And of course, you take them and you throw them in your little easy bake oven of horrors that you got back in Kamara. From a common gutter rat to one of the best fighter pilots your species has ever produced. You truly are the bestest whittled knife-eared wonder, aren't you? Your captain calls you up one day, you know, in the middle of your morning routine when you're punching a baby and blaring Celine Dion into the unwilling ears of those who have fallen beneath your grasp. Guess what, bucko? It's time to go back to one of your favorite haunts. Yeah, baby, we're going back to this Imperial world. You're going back to the skies, baby! Back to one of those Monkai planets! You celebrate by kicking the balls of a squat! You know, until the squat cries, and then you make your morning coffee from the tears because you're edgy. Then, after you have a sip of Folgers, you snort your first line of chems. You skip down the road, kicking slaves in the shins on your way to your razor wing, and just before you jump in the cockpit, you stop and snort a line of chems off a hooker's ass. You throw yourself back in the harness of the razor wing, scream in pain and happiness from your first chem-induced heart palpitation of the day, and then yank your fighter into position right alongside your Corsair buddies. You reach up, slap the dice hanging above your cockpit window made out of the fuzzy dice of another sapient species that was just unfortunate enough to run into you, slam your head 4 times as is customary, and then snort another line of chems. The azure light of transportation kicks in just as the chems do, and you feel that good old transport stiffy start to kick in. You're about to fully translate, let's go! And then your head explodes. Alright, so let's sum up this story. Some Drakari prick kept on appearing over Imperial worlds, and while most Drakari are annoying at the best of times, this one was decidedly more of a prick than normal. Subsector commanders were losing equipment and men at a rate, you know, that even the bureaucratic nightmare of the Imperium takes notice of. So at that point, the massive golden fist of the Imperium started to come up. Sector reports reached the desks of Segmentum commanders and was quickly whisked on to the High Lords of Terra. The High Lords took one look at the report of some Drakari prick going by the name of Sky Knife terrorizes some subsector, picked up the phone, and dialed M for murder. When the Officio Assassinorum picked up the phone, the High Lords of Terra put in an order to be delivered as quickly as possible. The Officio took the order and sent in an assassin, a Vindicare assassin, by the name of Dajaris Garamark. For a while, Dajaris actually considered going to Kamara, but he didn't want to subject himself to that much cringe. So Dajaris kicked back and looked over the reports, trying to figure out where and how to deliver this order when he saw that Sky Knife had appeared multiple times in the same spot, over and over and over on a singular Imperial world. So hey, you know what? Dajaris decided to do a little bit of spawn camping. We've all done it. You've done it. Valk. Dajaris climbed to the top of the Thurindian Colossus and waited in the empty eye socket of the massive statue. And then he waited. And then he waited and waited. Dejaris waited, eating moss and, capturing birds which he ate raw. He didn't even bother cooking them, okay? He didn't shower. He barely even slept. Dejaris curved his entire existence towards the appearance of Skyknife just to let the Knife Ear know how the Imperium felt about him. After 6 years of waiting, the air rippled in front of the Colossus, and before the Knife Ear, known as Skyknife, even adjusted to his surroundings, Dejaris had already delivered the High Lord's order. And for those of you wondering, I actually have the receipt right here. 1 McFuck-off with cheese, die in a fire, and a large Sprite to go. Let me just be blunt about it. Dejaris Garmack waited in a tower for 6 years to take a singular shot. Before Skyknife even had a chance to blink away the teleportation aura, Dejaris had already put a turbo penetrator round through the canopy into Skyknife's face and turned Skyknife into ground fire, landing a perfect headshot on a target that had appeared only, at best, an 1/8 of a second ago at a range to be impressed by. Today, we're going to talk about the Vindicare Assassins. By far the simplest to understand in terms of function, but the hardest to grasp in terms of capability. Vindicare Assassins are snipers. They are snipers, but to call them simply just snipers is a massive understatement. Calling a Vindicare a sniper is like calling Mount Everest a hill, or Disney Star Wars to be slightly underwhelming. A Vindicare Assassin doesn't train to take a shot, they train to take the shot. Singular. The Vindicare turns taking that shot into an art form, the final act in a ballet that has started off in silence to end with violence. Now that's the real nice way to say it. Let's be real about it. The Vindicare is nothing more or less than a trick shot specialist in their final form, and taken to the highest extreme, okay? Hearing this, you might still be saying the Vindicare is nothing more than a sniper, but you're not seeing the big picture. You're not seeing it. The level of attention to detail, precision, and patience is only the tip of the iceberg. A lot of focus is given to the long-range accuracy of the Vindicare, and that's fair. That's to be expected because we focus on the end result and not the actual build-up to this. You don't send in a Vindicare to take down a target that any schmuck with a long glass could take out. You send a Vindicare to take a shot that is practically impossible. You see, there's a problem with discussing a lot of things in 40K because, everything is so over the top, so outrageous that you get this kind of numbness when you're actually talking about some of the topics and subjects. You can only headbutt a wall so many times before you get brain damage, then the concept of it doesn't seem like that's such a big deal after all anymore, Vindicare Assassins fall into that particular brain-dead numbness. It's just a sniper, bro! Well, it's time to yank a band-aid off and scratch at a scab! Vindicare Assassins take an approach to a shot that only the most extreme paranoid OCD-suffering schizophrenic would after a bad acid trip. They are trained to fully analyze theaters of war, cityscapes that could span the horizon, and hive cities of such insane complexity it boggles the mind. They can do this within seconds to determine not only the best place to employ their own skills, but quite literally anyone else's. By the time they take their shot, they're going to have studied their target enough to predict every single step, every motion. They're sent to infiltrate the hardest targets, Xeno civilizations, heretic strongholds, Astartes encampments. They are trained to blend into a population, and once they are in position, they are trained to remain unseen. Vindicare Assassins are trained to remain unmoving, waiting for weeks, months, even years at a time. Let's just use that example I started off with, Garmack and Skyknife. When Garmack was given the task of eliminating Skyknife, he did everything possible to research for the task at hand. He studied reports, film, personal accounts, patterns. He studied the Knife Ear like he was pulling apart an insect, dragging each instance of the appearance of the Razor Wing until he found an adequate spot. He then found a building where he knew he was going to be left alone, and that's where he set up shop. Then he waited for 6 years. I can't even wait 6 minutes on a download. And it's not like he knew when the Razor Wing was gonna show up. He literally sat in one place for over half a decade waiting for this one particular instance, and within a quarter second of the Knife Ear showing his face, he was already packing up to leave. Hey, maybe he'd stop at McGrox's for a burger on the way out. This cold approach to their task is built into them, hammered into them from a very early age. usually starting before they wound up at the temple in the first place. Now, before they go to the temple to learn how to be the absolute most unreal edgelord sniper, oh boy, they go through what can only be described as abject hell. You see, kids are very special creatures, you know? They're very special creatures. They play tricks on each other. They play mean games on each other. They make fun of each other, but every now and then, a little special snowflake is born. You know, the ones that decide instead of being a doctor or a lawyer when they grow up, they're gonna decide to be in prison for mass murder. Well, when it comes to making use of the crazies, the Imperium does a bang-up job of it. They herd hundreds of these little bundles of joy together, and they put them all on one ship. Unfortunately for them, that ship is also filled with a whole bunch of sadists called instructors, and they ship them off to Terra. Those aforementioned sadists, they put the future Mickey Mouse Club through a routine that would make the Hunger Games look like a relaxing retreat from reality. Extended episodes of zero-G gravity followed by crushing weight, blistering heat, sub-zero temperatures, all the while in a constant fight for survival, pitted against each other in little contests for food and water, enduring beatings, injuries, and illnesses. Crying doesn't work, begging doesn't work either.
Welcome to the Thunderdome, bitch!
These instructors, so you remember the aforementioned sadists, they don't care how hard they push somebody, because if somebody just winds up dying on the road to Terra, they weren't cut out for this life to begin with, okay? In fact, when these ships set off to Terra in the first place, usually they got a few thousand of these preteen horrors on board, and sometimes the doors open on board the ship for only a sole survivor to emerge. Sometimes, no one comes out. Imagine the introduction to your new life is literally to body everyone else with you. Now granted, this seems like a horrific and totally unnecessary loss of life, and it's an absolute tragedy considering the age group, but then remember that these exist.
Hope you didn't like that microwave, Mom. That's for not buying me the new PS5.
I hate this piece of shit phone.
Whoa, don't throw it in the pool!
When my mom refuses to give me money, I make her life a living hell.
Shut the fuck up!
I get it.
And now you know. The Imperium doesn't have time for this bullshit, but they do have a use for it. So anyway, after graphically traumatizing the sass out of the little Hellions, they get sent to the temple that is going to be called their home. Those who go to the Vindicare temple will look back on their time in the ship as a pleasant memory, if they remember it at all. Because, you know, we can't have these little Hellions running around with their memories intact now, can we? So the first thing that happens is that the Imperium nukes their brains, so all those happy, warm, fuzzy memories of home in the ship, they go out the door. Mom, Dad, little Timmy, little Rover, they're all gone now. They're bye-bye. It's also a great way to get rid of a lifetime of trauma in an instant. The Imperium is not going to pay for your therapy bills. Your injury is not service-related. They will spend literal months being tested way beyond the limits of human endurance. Any moments of laxity are going to be punished brutally, if not fatally. While they're enduring this horror show, they're being extensively trained in the weapons and the tactics they're going to be employing. By the time their training is complete and the title of Vindicare is given to them, they're going to be an absolute god in marksmanship and survival tactics. They're going to be an expert beyond compare in infiltration and evasion. They will be able to survive and endure conditions that would make a Death Guard flinch for extended periods of time. They will be able to twist their body into a pretzel in order to get into a position to fire a single shot and remain in that position for weeks, if not months. If that wasn't insane enough for you, they are able to put their body through meditation into a form of suspended animation. This allows them to exist for long periods of time without eating food or drinking water, and they can wake up from this mode in an instant. Not only will they be an expert in evasion and illusion, they're also going to be receiving implants that aid them in this. Their skills are going to be honed by hypno-indoctrination, and all of these skills, implants, and abilities are going to be tested to the same rigorous standards as I was talking about before. They will be trained in hand-to-hand and close-quarters combat where the penalty for failure is death. The stakes that the officio deals with on a regular basis put the cost of failure too high to give somebody a second chance. The cost of a shot not landing isn't in aw shucks or we'll get it next time. It's measured in millions upon millions of bodies. Let me give you an example about this. Cardinal Zafian, you ever heard of the guy? Let me tell you about him. He was a cardinal on a planet called Vrax. Ever heard of that? Ever heard of the Deathcore Krieg? Maybe? Possibly? Huh? Some of you already know where I'm going with this one, okay? Cardinal Zafian started to have some really spicy ideas. So spicy, the Inquisition started to take notice and thought they'd send him a new Chipotle breakfast burrito bowl with the ghost pepper flakes. In other words, they were gonna kill him. It was also decided the spicy food that Zafian was cooking up, it was being distributed to the planet that he was on large. So, we gotta take care of that. Therefore, a Vindicare assassin was sent with a healthy dose of colon blow. Zafian was well aware of the fact that he was pissing off some of the wrong people to piss off in the Imperium. So he was doing his best impersonation of a vampire, avoiding open spaces, avoiding sunlight, anywhere where there would be a clear line of sight to him, because he knew something was coming. Yep. Zafian had thought of everything, and he felt like a bustling, bright baby boy. You see, the problem with that is the Vindicare don't really care about any of that. All they really care about is Zafian had written a check with his mouth that his ass was about to cash. After 4 days of close observation, a shot rang out from the highest spire of the cathedral. It blasted through a meter-thick pillar and hit the Cardinal as it was coming through a small archway. The Vindicare had timed the shot perfectly, never once seeing the Cardinal, but analyzing his actions well enough to place the shot. Let that sink in for a minute. The Vindicare are so good they can determine when and where to fire a shot based off your Twitter updates. Zafian was blasted back off his feet, the proud recipient of the Imperium's latest biggest douchebag award. But there was a problem. You see, Zafian had an ace up the sleeve, and it was something the Vindicare had actually been concerned about, but the need for action outweighed the need for hesitation. Zafian had survived. After passing through over a meter of construction and materials, marble, and everything else, the round the Vindicare fired was still more than capable of turning Zafian the Cardinal into Zafian the Campbell's chunky soup. But again, the Cardinal had an ace in the hole that kept him from getting a hole in the ass. A Rosarii is an item that many in the Imperium don't even know the full extent of its abilities. It uses a small localized protection field, and Zafian was wearing one. If the pillar had not been in the way, the Vindicare would have used a different round which would have turned Zafian into past tense. But with a pillar in the way, the Vindicare had used a turbo penetrator round, which while good enough to go through a meter of stonework, through everything else, and while still packing enough of a punch to throw Zafian down the hallway, it didn't take him out. The refractor field absorbed enough of the energy that was remained over from the shot. The force of the hit was still hard enough to shatter Zafian's ribcage. But the assassin had failed, and Zafian had survived. The result of the Vindicare's failure to assassinate Zafian led to an event called the Siege of Vrax, a 17-year-long conflict in which 14 million guardsmen from the Death Corps of Krieg died. The planet itself was turned into a barren wasteland, and the system was eventually declared off limits. This is what happens. Failure is not an option. It is simply not in the cards for what they do. To make sure they don't royally screw it up, they get some of the best equipment possible to make. First off, let's talk about weapons. And if you're talking about the long distance package that the Imperium has, you look no further than the Exitus rifle. It's not something that comes off of a factory line. Oh, no. This thing is handcrafted from the tip to the stock. The person who crafts this weapon is called a Magos Artisan, which is toaster speak for dude that makes good stuff. It's going to be tailor-made for the assassin in question, being built to their exacting specifications. The Exitus rifle is an absolute cheat code of a weapon. It will not overheat. The concept of it jamming is ridiculous. The concept of it jamming is about the same as me finding a towel I want to live. In fact, the concept of any mechanical failure whatsoever in any of these rifles is non-existent. When a Magos Artisan makes something, it's considered an insult to even check over it to make sure it was done right. I'm afraid of heights, and a Magos Artisan could hand me a bungee cord and I'd jump off a bridge without flinching. Things the rifle will include are a selector switch, a scope, of course, and it's gonna come with a silencer built in. At the same time the Magos Artificer is making an Exitus rifle to reach out and touch someone, he's making something else for those up-close and personal moments. And no, it's not Axe body spray. It's basically a matching pistol to his existing Exitus rifle. It's gonna have a built-in silencer and it's gonna kick harder than a 2-cent mule, but that's okay. Because frankly, it really doesn't matter how hard it kicks because of the Vindicare's muscle tone due to the implants and the training and, you know, all the other kind of crap they go through. But old man, how's the stomping power? I'm glad you asked. If you're expecting to be something like Harry Potter and Wingardium Leviosa into the afterlife, you got another thing coming. Getting hit by the Exitus pistol turns your own body into a projectile that can go through armor plasts. If you're keeping track, armor plasts is what they make carapace armor out of. If that didn't compute, let me rephrase. Getting shot by an Exitus pistol turns the person who got shot by the Exitus pistol into an armor-piercing round. If that's not insane enough, the Vindicare are trained to empty the entire clip. One shot per heretic before any of the heretics even get their gun out of their holster. Exitus rifles and pistols use Exitus ammunition. Go figure. And there are 3 main types. You got the shield breaker round, which is basically to let anyone there that has a force field know the Imperium has hacks too. A Vindicare is going to use this against Tyranids, Zoanthropes, Heretic Psychers, Any-Thousand Sun, and Warlock Farseers, even if they're really pretty disgusting heretics. The Hellfire round is the Imperium's way of letting you know you should have had a lot more armor before you started running your mouth. It contains bioacid and microscopic needles. If you really need a visual of what this would look like if you got hit by it, take a styrofoam face and throw it in a fire. Then you have the round which, well, everyone knows, and that's the Turbo Penetrator round. And for any gun nuts, please remain seated for the next 2 to 5 minutes. The Turbo Penetrator is a hypervelocity 2-stage round. It's got a jacket made out of pure adamantine. The secondary round inside this fires a charge that is hard as a diamond. The thing is fired fast enough to rewrite your DNA from happy heretic to dead bitch. It has the power to punch through the hull of a cruiser and still provide adequate end-of-life care to anybody on the other side. Remember, the only reason Cardinal Zaphon survived on Vrax, even after the round went through a meter of stone, was because he was wearing a refractor field that can take multiple hits from plasma rifles. And it still broke his ribcage. Now these are the 3 main types of rounds, but that does not mean that's all of them. All of these rounds are massively time-consuming to put together and take a lot of rare materials. We don't want rounds like this getting in the hands of somebody completely undisciplined and reckless, like a Space Marine. Why would we want that? And yes, I actually meant we don't give them to Space Marines because they'd be reckless with them compared to the Assassins. In addition to their main girl and side chick in relation to the rifle and the pistol, the Vindicare will of course be given their leathery BDSM material, yeah. The suit is gonna come in the form of a matte black body glove, and yes, it will again be made to exacting specifications. To save some time, it's got the special sauce. It's made with something called chameleon and synth skin, which helps somebody fit in like a social butterfly at a Starbucks. It makes quite simply 0 sound. It bonds with the assassin, giving them enhanced reflexes, strength, agility. It also gives them basic protection against gunfire, knives, and ex-girlfriends named Tiffany. This connects with the last piece of kit the Vindicare is gonna have. And brace yourself for this one, the spy mask. Let's just put it like this, shall we? Putting this on a first company veteran of any Space Marine chapter would make them go helmetless permanently. The word of the day is trend, and once again, that trend is handcrafting, because this is handcrafted just like everything else. Every Vindicare will have neural jacks implanted into their brain for this, and it will give them access to the following: wall hacks, aim hacks, vision hacks, and any other kind of cheat code you can think of. A Vindicare wearing this is going to get hammered with information, including trajectory, atmospheric information, the ability to see through smoke, multiple vision mode, analysis engine, probabilities, on and on, you get it. Not only that, it's got a built-in GoPro so they can upload their trick shots, fucking radar, it functions as a gas mask, it protects the wearer from flashbangs and any other kind of concussion device, and it's also set up to allow the Vindicare to broadcast their kills to a wider audience. What more do you want? Oh, but of course I'm not done with this thing yet. It also has storage space for compressed food and water cartridges just in case you need a snack. I mean, do you need anything else? Do you want a master to do anything else for you? What else do you want it to do? Do your taxes, tow a boat? I mean, the only thing it can't do is hack enemy communications, both audio and visual. Oh wait, it can do that too. And cherry on top of this bullshit Sunday, all of this gear is gene-coded, which means even if you kill the Vindicare to get his sweet loots, you still can't use it. Fighting one of these guys is just pure hell. They can wait for years, drop you at ranges that don't even qualify for next day's shipping. They can pull a pistol to turn you from a neat soft buddy into an AP slug, and even if you do take them down, the only thing you're gonna get out of is a mangled BDSM harness and a few paperweights that may or may not broadcast your WikiFeet login credentials to the wider Imperium for them to see what you're looking at. There's a lot of things on this channel that I've said aren't worth the effort, but fighting a Vindicare is in the top 20 of that. Like I said, to call a Vindicare a sniper just doesn't reach the point. The concept of a Vindicare going after a target is an exercise in absolute patience, with every tool at their disposal dedicated to turning them into a silent and watchful predator. The Vindicare will find you, observe you, analyze you until it knows you better than you know yourself. They will pierce defenses, infiltrate your stronghold, and determine how to best delete you from the census. Trust me with this one, when you have a Vindicare after you, the second you think you're safe, you're finished. And you won't even hear the shot. No one else will either. But everyone will know what happened. For your long distance needs in the Imperium, screw AT&T. The Vindicare has you covered.